Hi everybody, I'm Bob Junkie and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. This particular webinar is perhaps our most important to date because it will help you learn the future of sales strategy so that you can gain competitive advantage today. Our objective will be to profile the two types of buyers that now dominate the B2B world and the strategies that need to be followed to succeed with each. After a brief introduction, we'll describe that by providing you with the model showing how B2B buyers buy. Then, using that model, we'll show you the two different categories of buyers that have emerged, along with the resulting distinctly different relationships these two types of buyers want to have with your sellers. We'll finish by outlining the two sales strategies that your sellers need to follow with each type of buyer. So, by way of introduction, I'm the founder and CEO of Adventase and also author of our best-selling book. And our objective is to help our clients create what we call a high-performance sales environment. We do that through two means. The first is our holistic sales and sales management methodology, Adventase Methods, and the second is our comprehensive Salesforce-based application, the Adventase Sales Management System. So, here's a summary view of the model on how B2B buyers buy. Note that the y-axis defines the buyer's level of concern for things like the solution, value, and risk, while the x-axis represents the time for the buy cycle. Also note that buyers buy in 5 stages, where in the first stage, although the buyer recognizes they have an issue or a problem, at that point they don't work to resolve it. And there's a number of reasons why this occurs, but that'll need to be the subject of another webinar. In stage 2, the buyers analyze their problem and develop a solution. Then, in stage 3, the buyers determine the return they can expect if they proceed and likely develop an implementation plan. Stage 4 is dominated by risk. If the buyer is confident that they found a provider that will fulfill their vision and will be able to do it at their desired ROI, they'll likely move forward. And then finally, in stage 5, once that decision's been made, the buyer's attentions turn to the actual implementation itself. With that model in mind, let's identify the two categories of buyer. We'll refer to the first as seller-educated buyers. In the past, this was the dominant buyer type, and as you'll see, it still comprises a pretty large portion of B2B buyers. And although these buyers certainly understood their business, they generally did not know how our solutions could help. The net of that was that solution selling was born, where we found a buyer's pain and then turned it into the vision of a solution, then proved our capabilities. We then helped them determine the anticipated ROI. And if we did a great job, we mitigated the buyer's risk and they moved forward with us. We call these buyers seller-educated buyers because they needed to work with a salesperson whom they generally depended on early in the buying process to help them better understand their needs. That process continues to work quite well today with that category of buyer. However, there has emerged another category of B2B buyer whom we'll call the internet-educated buyer primarily because of information readily available on the internet and social media, they educate themselves to the point where they go through the 3 most important stages of the buying process and they do it without a salesperson. Very importantly, and I can't emphasize this enough, this results in each category of buyer desiring a very different relationship with a seller. Depending on the study you read, 45% of today's B2B buyers are the seller-educated buyer type. The relationship or reliance they have on a salesperson is to help them better understand their problem and to envision a solution to it. The other category then is the 55% of internet-educated buyers. In particular, they already have a vision of a solution. So why on earth would they want to have a relationship with a seller? Well, if they view the seller as a thought leader who can add value, and this is key, by propelling them beyond their current vision to an even better one, then they will listen and be willing to have a relationship with that seller. So those are the two categories of B2B buyer. To discuss the rather profound differences in approach to selling to each, let's put this in the context of a sales process, albeit at a pretty high level. Those processes include prospecting and lead generation, which leads to the sales call. And the main components of the sales call then include the call introduction, solution development, followed by determining the impact on others. This is important to determine who your buying committee will be. The last major component then is execution of the sales cycle leading to a buy decision. Let's apply this now to the approach that sellers should take with seller-educated buyers. When it comes to prospecting, we get buyers to agree to appointments essentially by asking them, would you like to understand how we've helped other people in your industry with your job title solve a high probability problem? Next, let's focus on the sales call and the first component, the call intro. Here, sellers typically have not yet convinced the buyer that they can competently help them solve a problem. So the call intro should accomplish that. Assuming we have, we then get the buyer to admit their problem or pain and turn it into a vision of a solution, hopefully biased towards our capabilities. We then determine how our buyer's problem impacts others in their company. We use that information to logically gain access to those buyers and pull them together as a buying committee. That then leads to the sales cycle, where sellers should use a logical sequence of events leading the buyer to a comfortable buy decision. This stands in stark contrast to the approach sellers should take with internet-educated buyers. Here, when it comes to prospecting and lead generation, you should use social selling to establish yourself as a thought leader. Then you should use what we call a vision value tool to secure the appointment. That tool is specifically designed to help you show buyers how you helped similar companies solve important business issues, the payback they achieved, your view of the issues impacting your buyer's company, and the capabilities they'd need to boldly take their business to new heights. Then, when it comes to the call introduction, I'll walk through that vision value tool will get the buyer to conclude that you're highly competent. The process to follow with solution development is one designed to help you re-evolve or extend the buyer's vision beyond where it is today. To identify the impact on others, you should use another tool called an impact tree to show the buyer your view of the interdependence of the critical business issues across their organization. That will set the stage for you to gain access to those buyers. That then leads to the sales cycle, where you should come prepared with that sequence of events leading to a buy decision. So to conclude, we now have two distinct categories of buyers that dominate the B2B buying community, which, to align with them, requires two distinct sales processes. Well, that's it for today's webinar. If you'd like to discuss this further, just let us know. Here's our contact information. Thanks for joining us.